Every time a company seems to be coming out with a new technology, there seems to be some USAP versus UPAA BS that has to go down first. So when I found out that Gherkin Pickleball was bringing novel tech into the game, I automatically assumed the worst, and I was like, here we go again. But then they did something that I think actually brings some desirable qualities to pickleball paddles, and at the very least, it looks pretty cool. So let's talk about it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rafa the Pickleball Tech Dude. I'm ex-PPA, I'm a Harvard-educated engineer, and I'm also a seasoned pickleball product tester. These mini reviews are going to be a little shorter because as opposed to doing an in-depth analysis of everything I expect of the paddle on paper versus what I experienced on the court, I'm just going to talk about what my on-court experience was and what I think this paddle is good at and what I think it's not so good at. Gherkin currently has 3 paddles in their line, the Quantum, the Phantom, and the Spectre. I'm going to throw up all the specs I've collected about all of them right now, and if you need a little bit more time, feel free to pause the video or rewind a few seconds. And because I like to end things on a positive note, I'm going to first talk about what these paddles are not so good at, and then jump into what they are good at, which involves this novel technology that Gherkin is bringing to the game. The first thing I'm going to say I'm not a big fan of is the handles on all 3 of the paddles. These paddles have fairly short handle lengths, and so doing two-handed backhands for anybody with average to large hand sizes can feel a little bit cramped. Also, I can't recall the grip circumference off the top of my head, but that's also really small, like too small for me, and I have pretty average size hands. Also, if you've ever noticed that the shape of your handle, if you were to draw a line around it with your finger, kind of looks like an octagon, those different sides are called bevels, and advanced players use those to orient their fingers to their preferred grip when they're playing. Now, I'm not a super advanced player, but I do still use those bevels personally, and the handle on Gherkin paddles sort of feels more like an oval. I really don't feel any bevels at all, and so it feels kind of strange. The other thing I would say about these paddles is that I wouldn't expect to have very fast hand speed. The swing weight on the Spectre is 125, which specifically to that paddle is very high. To contextualize that number, anything under 113 should feel very light, anything 113 to 119 should feel fairly in the middle, and then anything 120 and up can start to feel heavier. But see, the strange thing here is that the Quantum and the Phantom both come in with swing weights at 115 and 116, which means they should feel pretty average, right? Wrong. For the record, I think the Phantom out of all of them has the most average feeling swing weight, so if you're going to get one of these paddles and hand speed matters, I'd go for that one. But it feels so strange saying that because that's the standard shape paddle. Paddles like the Quantum are specifically designed to have that arrow curve shape to the top to have faster hand speed, but for some reason this paddle actually feels fairly clunky when you're swinging it. Now, because this attribute of the paddle is not bad, and it's also not something the paddle completely excels at either, it's definitely right there in the average middle area, this is where I'll talk about control. I like to talk about control in terms of both shot accuracy, can you execute different shots from different parts of the court, and then soft game, things like dinks and resets and how easily they are to execute. I think the Phantom and the Quantum, way more than the Spectre, have really good shot accuracy capability. And I'm saying that because I was able to execute shots not only off the bounce, but also pretty easily execute volley shots, which are definitely the harder shots for any paddle to achieve. When it comes down to the soft game, the dinking and the resets, I have to hand that to the Spectre and the Quantum. I actually think the reason why the Spectre is not that great at handling shots out of the air is because its swing weight is so heavy and it's kind of hard to get the paddle there for most players. But now let's get to the good stuff. The first thing that I found that this paddle was particularly better at than I expected was the power and spin. All 3 of these paddles not only beat the 2000 RPM threshold for spin that a lot of very advanced players are really desiring nowadays, but I also felt like the plow through the ball from all 3 of these was particularly good. A lot of this has to do with the twist weight of these paddles, with the Quantum and the Phantom being at 6.5 and then the Spectre being at 7.0. That means that these paddles feel really stable on off-center shots, meaning that you're going to be able to swing and follow through the ball a lot better. And I think because I was able to get that plow through, I was hitting power levels of 53.1 miles per hour in terms of serve speeds averaged across all 3 paddles. Now, normally 53.1 miles per hour would put this paddle into the power category for me, but with more paddles reaching Gearbox Pro levels with the Vatic Pro Oni and the Yola Gen 3s, I know it's a hot topic, I'm still going to talk about them. I would say this puts these paddles more into the all-court leaning power category. And now the biggest thing with these paddles and where the new tech comes in is with the sweet spot. These paddles are the first and only paddles on the market, to my knowledge, that use silicone edge guards as opposed to TPU plastic. What Gherkin has done by introducing silicone to the edge guards is that they're making them a bit more rubbery as opposed to more plastic. Rubber is a bit more elastic and less susceptible to absorbing energy than plastic is, which means a lot more energy transfer back to the ball and a much larger sweet spot on the paddle than I was used to. I think a lot of us paddle nerds have really thought about the feasibility of rubber edge guards in the past. I think there might even be a couple of paddles out there, but the problem with rubber edge guards is that they make the paddle feel much, much heavier. But this silicone not only doesn't increase the static weight very much in your average edge guard, but it also now has the rubber edge guard capabilities, which I think is pretty cool. So props to Gherkin for that. So the last thing I'll touch on is the design of this paddle is pretty stellar. Overall, I think the design on the face looks super sleek, and I think it really fits the sort of ephemeral vibe that they're going for, you know, with the names of Phantom, Quantum, and Spectre. It all just ties in together really well. And I not only like the edge guards because of their effect on the sweet spot, but also the design in general is so sick and something super unique that I haven't seen before. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering, is lead tape even going to stick to it? Because there's such a thin, flat channel through the middle that's a lot thinner than most lead tape. This is where I feel like Gherkin has really done their homework and actually put a lot of thought into this design, because on top of having these paddles, they also let me know that they have tungsten tape as well. It actually fits perfectly into the flat groove of the paddle and gives you all of the benefits of lead tape. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Gherkin line. I think if you're asking for my personal preference, I'm probably going with the Phantom just because it feels the fastest in the hands and still maintains all the other qualities, the control, the spin, the power, and all things like that. I find it hard to see where the Quantum really fits into anybody's game in comparison to the other two, but it's blue and it still looks just as cool as the rest, so it has that going for it. And the best thing is that with my code Trevino50, you're actually going to get $50 off this paddle, but only through the end of May, which is about 2 days away. So I'd act quickly because that honestly puts this paddle in a very competitive price range for its capabilities. Thank you so much for watching. I'm shooting for less than 6 to 7 minutes on these minis, but not sure if I got there. I probably didn't. And my only recommendation, again, if you get these paddles, is to probably throw 1 or 2 overgrips on the handle in order to make it actually feel solid in your hands. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to get more pickleball news and some more reviews from me, because there will be many in the coming days. And remember, you only have a couple more days to take advantage of $50 off these paddles. So if you feel like these paddles are for you, make sure you act quickly, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.